Before I get into this one, I might as well just say, I'll get the jerseys out of the way early this time. I got my red Florida Panthers jersey here from about 2015. This one, no one on the back. See there? And you got my current Florida Panthers jersey with Jonathan Huberdeau on the back. I got this for cheap after he got traded. So, pause it here and we'll get started with the video in just a moment. Anyway guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the 2022-23 Stanley Cup finalist, the Florida Panthers. Back-to-back years of a Florida team, just different ones. Last year it was Tampa, this year it was Florida. So the Florida Panthers, a record of 42-32-8 for 92 points, were the last team to get into the playoffs. They were 4th in the Atlantic, 8th in the East, 17th in the league, so they weren't even in the top 16. Calgary actually beat them out for top 16. However, they're in the West, Florida's in the East. Florida had the spot open, so they get in. They were 5th in goals for 290, so 290 goals, and so they can score. And they were 21st in goals against with 273, so they allowed a lot of goals, but they scored a lot of goals, which is usually a recipe for non-playoff hockey, but it worked for them here. Let's talk about the regular season first. We got the top 12 scorers on the board just like last time, along with all their goaltending. Then we got playoffs, same thing. So, games played, we'll start with Matthew Tkachuk leading the way in points. 79 games played, 40 goals, 69 assists, 109 points. Matthew Tkachuk going from Calgary to Florida this year. No change in his play. If not, he might be better in Florida. Sasha Barkov, or Alexander Barkov, 68 games played, never plays a full season, 23 goals, 55 assists, and 78 points. If he played a full season, he would hit 100 points every year. Carter Verhaeghe, 81 games played, 42 goals, 31 assists, 73 points, and what a pickup for Verhaeghe. Kind of was left in a lot of team systems, and eventually he made his way up into the Florida Panthers roster. In these last couple of years, he's been great. Brandon Montour, a very underrated defenseman in my opinion, 80 games played, 16 goals, 57 assists, 73 points as well, and I argue their best defenseman over Ekblad. Over Forsling, Gudas, you name it. I think he's their best defenseman. It's not close. Reinhart, 82 games played, 31 goals, 36 assists, 67 points. Good season for Reinhart. Luosterainen, who saw this coming out of E2? 82 games played, 17 goals, 26 assists, 43 points. So over half a point a game for Luosterainen. It was more of a fourth-line center last season, and this season he kind of jumped up. I guess when they kind of lost a lot of their depth, that's kind of why. Forsling, 82 games played, 13 goals, 28 assists, 41 points. Sam Bennett, kind of a disappointing season from him, even though you could just credit Luosterainen and Forsling for just being that far up there. 63 games played. He also missed a lot of games, so he probably would have had around 10, 12-ish more points. 16 goals, 24 assists, 40 points in 63 games. Ekblad, 71 games played, 14 goals, 24 assists, 38 points. Lundell, 73 games played, 12 goals, 21 assists, 33 points in his sophomore year. Eric Stahl, 72 games played, 14 goals, 15 assists, 29 points after not being in the league for a year is not that bad. Nick Cousins, 79 games played, 9 goals, 18 assists, 27 points. For goaltending, Bobrovsky, 50 games played, 24, 20, and 3, 901 save percentage, 3.07 goals against average. Lyon, 15 games played, 9-4-2 with a 912. He saved the end of the season for them. 2.89 goals against average. And then Spencer Knight, before he entered the Players Assistance Program, hopefully he's all right. 21 games played, 9-8-3, 901 save percentage with a 3.18 goals against. So Lyon, by the numbers, is their best goalie. However, Bobrovsky played most of the games because Lyon was kind of in the minors and no one knew he existed. So what happened here for Florida? Honestly, they lost a lot of they won the President's Trophy in 2022. They lose a ton of their depth, including Claude Giroux. They trade Huberdeau and Uyghur out for Tkachuk, which looks like a fantastic move for Tkachuk. However, if they were able to keep Huberdeau and Uyghur, that's a lot of their depth still here. It also saved them some cap space, to be fair, so that's also a part of it. And Bobrovsky, that $10 million contract, it didn't look like he was living up to it in the regular season. And in the playoffs, everything changes. Everything changes for the narrative for this team in the playoffs. Of course, Duclair not on the board there in the regular season because he had a torn ACL. It was out for most of it. So let's look at the playoffs now. In the first round, they go up against the best team in NHL history, the 2022-23 Boston Bruins, 65 wins, 135 points. And they go down early. They lose 4-3 in game 1, and I just realized I wrote them backwards, so that's fine. They lose they win the series in 7, 4-3. They lose game 1, 3-1. They win game 2 in Boston, 6-3. They then come home and lose both at home, 4-2 and 6-2. So they're down 3-1. In overtime, Ullmark misplays the puck behind the net. Tkachuk gets it. He wins game 5 in Boston for them in overtime, 4-3. They then go back to Florida, where Florida wins 7-5. And then in overtime, Carter Verhaeghe gets the game 7 OT winner after Montour ties it late. 4-3 in overtime. The best team in history is down in the first round. And shock. Just absolute shock. I could see it happening. I didn't think it was going to happen. And then they play against Toronto, who won their first series in 19 years, and they made it look pretty easy. So they've won 3 in a row to that point. They then win they win the series in 5, so 4-1. They win 4-2, 3-2, and 3-2 in overtime. Who got the winner in that one? Was it Verhaeghe? No, it was Reinhart. Reinhart, I think, got the winner in that one. And so they were up 3-0 against Toronto. They then lose 2-1 at home, but they go to Toronto. They clean it up. Nick Cousins with the OT winner to win 3-2. And at this point, they're already 4-0 in overtime games. And if planes would stop going over my house, that would be fantastic. Now, against Carolina getting back to the conference final for the first time since 2019, and they still have not won a game in the conference final since when they won the Cup in 2006. They've lost. They got swept in 2009. They got swept in 2019, and now they've been swept in 2023. As Florida beats them 4-0. They win 3-2 in quadruple overtime, one of the longest games in history. I believe it's 6th. I did the video on it. They then win 2-1 in overtime. Matthew Tkachuk gets the winner in both of those. They then go home and they win 1-0 and 4-3 as they sweep Carolina. The 1-0 game, Bobrovsky stands on his head, and then 4-3. Tkachuk with the winner with 4 seconds to go, MVP of that series easily. Of course with Bobrovsky as well. Bobrovsky and Tkachuk are the 2 standouts here. And then they go to the Stanley Cup Final for the second time in their history, where they play the Vegas Golden Knights in their second final in history. First time since 96 that the Panthers have been here, and then the first time since 2018 that the Knights have been here. They lose the series in 5 games. They lose 5-2 and 7-2 in game 1 and 2 in Vegas. They win 3-2 in overtime after they come back late. Did they come back? Yeah, they scored late, and then it was Verhaeghe with the winner there. And then they lose 3-2 at home, and then go to Vegas where they lose 9-3. They got absolutely smacked. They were injured to hell and back there, so you can't really blame them for eventually giving out. They're an 8th seed, so they were one of the few 8th seeds to make the finals. You go with the 2006 Oilers, the 2012 Kings, who won the Stanley Cup, and I think this might be the 3rd team in the salary cap era to do so. And it shows the parity of that's for sure. For Florida, I don't understand how they were able to do it. I'm gonna be honest. I thought their bottom 6 was one of the bottom 5 worst in the league bottom 6s. I'd honestly put some of what Chicago had over what some of Florida had, and yet they were able to do it. That's the impressive part. They were able to do it. So games played in the playoffs along with points. Tkachuk leads the way with points. 20 games played because he did not play Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final because he was injured with a broken sternum. 11 goals, 13 assists, 24 points. Fantastic. Carter Verhaeghe, 21 games played, 7 goals, 10 assists, 17 points. Barkov, who, honestly, the stats I think show that he was better than I think he actually was. 5 goals in 21 games, 5 goals, 11 assists, 16 points. He looked invisible at points during the Stanley Cup Final especially. Sam Bennett, 20 games played because he was suspended for one, I thought, or he was injured for one, I don't remember. 5 games played, 10 goals, or 20 games played, 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points. Brandon Montour was explosive in the first round, and then he's kind of slowed down after that. 21 games played, 8 goals, 5 assists, 13 points. Sam Reinhart, 21 games played, 8 goals, 5 assists, 13 points as well. Anthony Duclair comes back to the playoffs. He missed only 1 game, 20 games played, 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points. Anton Lundell, 21 games played, 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points. Aaron Ekblad, 20 games played because he was injured for a game, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. Gustav Forsling, 21 games played, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points as well. Nick Cousins, 21 games played, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. And Eetu Luostarinen, who kind of just disappeared. 16 games played, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. yeah, kind of strange how some guys just disappeared. You see Eric Stahl on the board here. He's not on this side. Luosterainen only plays 16 games. I'm not sure if he was injured or if they sat him. I don't know what happened there. Because I don't remember hearing anything during the playoffs unless I just completely forgot about it, which is entirely possible. Now, in terms of goaltending, I'm going to move the board back a little because I need some new markers because you could probably barely read this to begin with. And I was literally squeezing every inch out of whatever marker was left in these. So I have to be very careful when I read it. Don't mind the noise there. I'm going to move the board back so I can actually read a little bit. All right, so in the playoffs, Sergei Bobrovsky takes center stage. After Lions starts, he goes out after Game 3. Bobrovsky comes in Game 4. He doesn't lose much after. In 14 games, he goes 12-6 with a .915 save percentage and a 2.78 goals against. Alex Line, before being replaced by Bobrovsky, was in 4 games played, 1-2 with an 898 save percentage, and or does that say 798? No, 888 save percentage. I can't read, with a 3.63 goals against. So Bobrovsky steals the show in the playoffs. He's made that Stanley Cup final run. It's going to be a question whether or not, if he makes another one, I think you can definitely get him into the Hall of Fame. He's already got 2 Vezinas. He's made a run to the Cup final, where he was a very important part. So for Bobrovsky's career, we'll see what happens there. Then, of course, he might be traded this offseason with his value probably being the highest it will be with his cap hit. And, those are the 22-23 Florida Panthers, an 8th seed that went to the final. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And this is going to be my last video before I leave for vacation, so there will be a week-long hiatus unless there's any news regarding the Blackhawks or that sort of thing. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next one, in probably about a week. Goodbye.